Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of One Small Step. Today, our guest is Teghan Acres. Thank you so much, Teghan, for joining me today. Teghan is a Bachelor of Environment graduate, so she had just recently graduated, and she took her passion for saving the planet and changing the trajectory of our planet outside of the classroom. So Teghan, I actually know that you started the Climate Hope Project in 2019. So could you please just talk me through a little bit about the Climate Hope Project and what that's all about?
Yeah, definitely. So the Climate Hope Project is the name of my personal blog, which I started in fall 2019. I was lucky enough to go on study abroad in spring 2019, so I had some time to reflect, and there were these amazing climate protests happening all over the world. I was studying in London, and I was able to go to the climate protest there, which was just at such a larger scale than what we kind of are able to see in Vancouver. And I was feeling really inspired, but at the same time, a bit lonely, I suppose, and not necessarily feeling like I had this support network of people that were also working on the planet. And I probably thought that others were feeling a similar way. So when I came back to Vancouver and SFU in the fall, I created my blog with the idea that I would interview people working on environmental and sustainability initiatives and share their stories. And the idea of the Climate Hope Project is to bring people hope for our climate and hope for climate change, with the idea that that would inspire them to take action and them to feel a community and feel supported, and to be able to hopefully create a chain reaction of positive environmental action.
It's very inspiring actually. Oh, that's pretty amazing. But I guess I'd want to know, was that a bit daunting for you? Like starting a blog and, having your opinions and your ideas out there?
I've always loved writing and considered myself a writer, but it kind of fell off the side of my desk when I was at SFU and so busy with other things. And I was nervous to start something without a necessarily concrete idea about what I was going to do. I'd always kind of had the idea that I should be writing and I should be building my portfolio and making those connections, but it wasn't until I was kind of taken out of my environment and when I was away traveling and studying that I kind of had this aha moment where I was like, you know what, it really doesn't matter what anybody thinks. Like my great friends that support me are always going to be my cheerleaders. And if anybody thinks that it's lame or my writing isn't good or whatever, then I'm just starting out and it's okay.
Yeah.
And I was really supported by my support network.
Oh, that's great. Sometimes, just having good friends and having family around is very helpful
Mm-hmm.
when you're trying to launch some of these things. And also, I just like the fact that you kind of took your passion outside of the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was reading your blog, and her blog is amazing. You need to go check her blog.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
and you were speaking about how you learned in the classroom as a bachelor's of environment major, you were learning a lot about what's happening in the planet, like what's wrong with what's happening, like what are the disasters that are happening. And that at one point, one of your profs actually was like, do you leave the class depressed every day?
And we were
Which
all
I
just
thought was
like, kind of.
yeah, which I thought was pretty funny. So you said you learned a lot actually outside of the classroom as well. So could you please just explain a little bit how you learned more about how to actually solve these problems?
The blog that you're referring to, I talk about how I feel like a lot of my classes were just focused on what the problems are. And obviously, climate change is still happening. It's still a really big issue. So there's not necessarily like a ABCD set of solutions that we can just implement and everything will be okay. But there are so many solutions that I didn't feel like were being talked about in the classroom. So as a writer myself, I kind of started to seek out other blogs and other kind of like solutions focused publications, reading websites like Grist and Tyee that were doing some really great climate reporting. And then looking when I had my Climate Hope Project Instagram, following other people that were also looking for those same kind of hope and inspiration that would share resources. And I really was inspired so much by Indigenous activists and Indigenous land defenders who are truly the leaders in the environmental movement, who have been championing these causes for so long, not because they're activists, but because it's their way of life. And those voices aren't always amplified as much as I'd hoped in the classroom, because maybe they're not peer-reviewed papers or whatever it might be. Not to say that they weren't ever talked about, but it was something that I wished was amplified more. So I was reading books and watching YouTube interviews with different land defenders, and then with Ban the Bottle, which is a SFU club working to eliminate single-use plastics, specifically plastic water bottles, I was able to have kind of a community of like-minded students that were working and cared about the same issues as me. And we were able to kind of support each other with working with the administration, working with the student societies, and eventually sitting on the SFU Reused for Good task force. And I was able to kind of get that real life experience of what it looks like to implement change at a university level. And to do that, we had to do a lot of research, a lot of outreach. So getting tangible on the ground experience there also just kind of widened my perspective on how hard it is sometimes to make change, but how worth it is when you do it in the end.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I think that's pretty amazing that you don't necessarily have to, if you're passionate about something, it doesn't have to stay in the lecture halls. It doesn't have to stay in, I was going to say the name of that really big lecture hall at SFU, but we haven't been taking classes in person for such a long time.
I know
what it's called, but yeah, you don't have to keep your passions in the classroom. So I guess I want to know what's next for Teghan.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I really kind of took my passion from Ban the Bottle on kind of waste reduction and waste prevention into my career. And now I work communications for the National Zero Waste Council. And I'm a blog writer for some different zero waste and circular economy brands. That's kind of like what's paying the bills these days. And it's been a crazy year, and I've also just been trying to focus on rest and making sure I don't burn myself out, because I did find that at SFU when I was juggling so many different projects and initiatives at the same time. So trying to just kind of enjoy that graduated life and take a little bit more time for rest.
Yeah, no, rest is super important. So I love that you're taking that time out for yourself. I guess to wrap up this interview, I just want to know if you were to, I guess, wrap that up as one small step, because that's the name of this series. What do you think is the one small step that you took that has now led you to here?
I really do think it was starting my blog and doing that first interview, and going from there with kind of the domino effect, asking who else I should be interviewing, who might be interested in talking to me, and making all of those connections and that network that is able to kind of like support me now and able to turn to me when they're looking for similar style of writing or work. So really just kind of ripping off the Band-Aid, putting my first blog up on my website, as scary as it was, I think it really has benefited me so much.
Oh, great. Thank you so much, Teghan. I think there's a lot to take out of this chat that we've just had. So yeah, that's been this episode of One Small Step. I wish you all the best in your future endeavors, and that you continue to succeed and you continue to change the world, because I really think you are changing the world with the work that you're doing. And for everyone,
thank you so much.
I encourage you to just rip the Band-Aid off, as Teghan has said, just rip the Band-Aid off and just go for it. So thank you again for watching. This has been One Small Step.